Welcome into Valley News Now. Adam Shelf, once again joined by Lisa Green. And Lisa, what a phenomenon we have to talk about today. Something that has happened a little bit north of us, but definitely affecting this region.
Yeah, those of us who have lived in the valley for even one summer are familiar with Canadian wildfire smoke. And that certainly was something that impacted us this weekend.
Yeah, and here's some of the video from what they're experiencing in the land north to us.
That's right. Yeah, you can see just how smoky it was. There's those wildfires burning there. In British Columbia, Alberta, that's where they're experiencing some of the worst fires. They've been threatening towns like Fort McMurray, the Fort Nelson area, and are still burning out of control in a lot of areas.
And that brings us back to here we are.
Yeah. We want to talk about the wildfires, the wildfire season that we're already starting, but there's actually a pretty interesting term that we're going to get to as well that a lot of people have been hearing about and wondering about.
And I about jumped out of my chair when I heard this in the morning meetings earlier this week. Zombie wildfire.
Yeah, that's right. And you hear zombie, what does that make you think of? Something that is not done, it's not dead, right? And so that means wildfires that are still going, or maybe we thought were out but aren't quite. So that's involved in some of these early season wildfires that are going on. So this is a picture of a satellite imagery here over British Columbia, courtesy of NOAA. And what you're seeing here are two different things. Visible satellite, you can see the bright white puffy clouds there in British Columbia, or over British Columbia. But I also want to point out the smoke, and this is something important to watch as we go through wildfire season, to look out for this kind of satellite imagery. It's a little bit more wispy. Notice how it's not completely bright white. It almost looks a little dirty. Well, that's black carbon in the air, particles in the air from the burning forests and vegetation. And so you can see that smoke coming off the fires. Now, these red spots are from a satellite that detects hot spots, like very, very hot areas. And so this is where it's noting where those fires happen to be. So this is something that's being monitored here as the season starts up. And this was on Sunday, on Mother's Day, when we noticed the smoke that was coming our way. And it really kind of billowed in dramatically, if you remember, on Mother's Day, and it had a big impact on our day.
Absolutely. Yeah. I went out to the Red Hawks game, and it was definitely smoky in the air, smoky in the morning. And I feel like the name kind of hints to it a little bit, but what actually is a zombie wildfire? Let's get into the name there as well.
Let's get into the details. So yeah, a lot of people are saying kind of this, asking me this question, what? Excuse me, what is this? Well, it's basically like we were just mentioning. It's a wildfire that once was raging, but has seemingly gone dormant for a time. And then as we are warming back up, it's kind of resurging back to life. So these are holdover fires or overwintering fires from the previous wildfire season. And it's when materials are smoldering still, and they happen in some of those boreal forests of Canada, way up north in those areas, and it happens over winter. So that's what they are. They surge back to life, but the question is how does this happen? So what's going on here is that it's combustion that's going on underneath the snow, or even under the ground as well, and some stumps from burned trees that may still be smoldering. The areas where maybe they're covered in roots, or rather the roots are covered in leaves and materials. Perhaps there's some peat there. Peat is very combustible, but it is also has moisture to it, so it's a slow, long burn, and so that can lead to burning continuing over time, even under the snow. It actually helps to insulate it a little bit. So what happens is that's going on even after the season has ended, and it stays there until the weather warms and can reemerge when things become more dry. When the snow melts, it dries out, it reignites, and if the conditions are right, it can spread. So that's why we call them zombie fires in a way, is because they come back to life after seemingly being out. Now, the question is, why this year? Well, these kind of fires actually have happened before. It's just it hasn't always been studied well because it's in very remote areas. And in addition to that, it's not been as prevalent as it is this year because back in 2023, that was the worst wildfire season ever in Canada. There were more fires, they burned over more areas, and so that would naturally mean that there would be more holdover fires over the winter that were still smoldering before we got into the next season. So there's a lag from that 2023 season that's still affecting us now from that. And really the only reason the wildfire season ended in Canada last year was because snow fell on it. So again, that creates that little insulating effect of, you know, those materials continuing to burn. And some other factors here, they've been in a persistent drought in that area. So once the snow went away, it didn't take much for the materials to dry out quite a bit. And for the fact that we had that warm winter, just like we did here. We've been seeing early season wildfires here in the valley. From time to time, they've been put out pretty quickly, fortunately. But with that warm winter, that meant that the season started a little sooner because of the El Nino effect. So again, they're already, unfortunately, battling these fires as we're heading into a very early wildfire season in Canada.
And you touched on it. It's just amazing to think, you know, obviously snow is water.
Sure, yeah.
And so you would think that would put it out, but it does create that barrier that's just very fascinating that can happen and have such a large effect so far south.
Sure.
Here,
yeah. This is something that's happening very far away, northern reaches of British Columbia, up into places like Alberta, and we know that that can come our way. The smoke as a result of those fires can come our way because of weather patterns. And so the question is, what's going on? Are we going to see that smoke come back our way? Because these fires are still burning. Here's a look at a map of our current wildfire situation. You can see there's a lot of little fires that are detected on the satellite, even in the U.S., but these big fires up into Canada continue to burn, again, around that Fort McMurray area, back up toward that northeastern part of British Columbia, seeing some of these fires, and a lot of them are out of control. So they're still creating smoke. It's just a matter of, will the steering winds steer that smoke toward us? And in general, this green area here is where the satellite's detecting a light amount of smoke. Of course, the concentration is going to be higher closer to the fires, but that still is hanging around the valley, and we still have a little bit of that smoke in the air. So that's the current situation. And, you know, of course we want to know, is this going to continue? Well, we've been showing you this map the last couple of years to show you that near surface smoke. That's the smoke that we notice when we're breathing and it feels like it's tickling our throat. Like it did on Sunday. And we do have some in the vicinity. What we want to see on this map is nothing like you see here. But you can see we're in the light blue categories, and that's the lower concentrations of surface smoke, but still there. What we don't want to see are the oranges and reds and of course the purple. But you can see that we do have a little bit in our forecast here in the coming days. For today, perhaps a little bit of that smoke hanging around right in the valley. This is 7 o'clock tonight. I'm just going to zip ahead because not a lot changes, just a little fluctuation of a little bit of smoke coming through from time to time. But you can see we clear out here as we head into Friday and into Saturday morning. We'll be on that clear side at that point in time. So in the next couple of days, you know, we're looking okay. But again, the question is how are things going to be beyond the next couple of days? Yeah,
if those fires are still active, I feel like that could definitely continue some issues. Maybe we're not quite out of the woods yet. No. So what can we expect?
Well, this is something we're going to need to watch over the summer. Unfortunately, it's going to be something we're going to have to be wary of. And as long as those fires are burning, you know, it's a matter of, okay, is it coming our direction or not? So we'll be watching those upper level wind charts to let you know if we're seeing that wind steer, the jet stream turn more to that northwesterly direction. Sometimes you get a storm system move through, and that draws in air from the northwest, just the natural way air moves around low pressure systems. So, you know, if you see a storm system move through, sometimes that means we could see some smoke follow that. Something to watch for. If our prevailing weather pattern this summer is more out of the southwest or out of the south, we'll be better off, as long as there aren't any, you know, fires in the Rockies in the U.S. And the good thing is it has been a slower start to the season in the U.S. as compared to Canada here. So again, you know, we're in for more of these sunsets as we go through the summer. It's pretty, you know, that orange glow is really pretty.
It is.
This was taken on Sunday in Jamestown while Blaine was out golfing here, that smoky sunset. The problem is when it starts to get more thick and you can't even see the sun, and we've been in that situation, and it can be quite hazardous, especially to those of us who are sensitive. So bottom line is we'll keep watching it for the summer and keeping you up to date on that, but this is not something that's going to go away necessarily as long as there are fires burning in Canada, including zombie fires. Yeah,
so we will definitely keep everyone posted on those, and all summer, really.
All summer,
and, you know, there's such a thing. I'd never heard of it being from Chicago, but when I had my work in Colorado and Montana, I heard the term fire season.
Sure.
And it's a real thing, and it affects in ways I didn't even know. So I appreciate you teaching us about this, and just one of the many of nature's phenomena.
Yeah, and you know, it's scary to think that fire season isn't really ending now with these fires holding over in the winter time. And you know, you have a drought, you have a warmer winter, and the season starts right back up before you're even ready for it. And unfortunately, this year, that's what's happening.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Thank you very much for the explanation, and always a pleasure. And so for now, that's all we got on Valley News Now. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a great